Good evening, welcome to the Winthrop Town Council meeting for Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. It's 6:30, we're in the Harvey hearing room. Call the meeting to order, roll call please.
Council Costigan.
Here.
Council Tassinari.
Here.
Council Milano.
Here.
Council Reardon.
Here.
Council Dimes. Present. Council Romano.
Present.
Vice President Swope. Present. President Lettieri.
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand for the pledge, led by Councilor Tassinari.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America. Minutes from the February 17th meeting have been circulated. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Vice President Swope, second by Councilor Romano. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. General information recommendation. We're going to have two presentations. One is an update on the firehouse and how that's going, and the other is an update on the storm and talk about that. We'll start with Dan Plata from P3 is here. Thank you, Dan. Yes. Yep, that would be great. We had a firehouse building committee the other day, and this presentation was given to the committee. We thought it would be a great idea to share it with the public. As to the progress, give people a little sneak peek at what's to come, and I'll turn it over to Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You can hear me okay? Just want to give an update, we're from a construction standpoint, we are targeting to start the bidding process in late June and completing the bidding process in early August, with construction starting on or around Labor Day of the structure. We're nearly complete with the removal of the auditorium section of the old junior high addition, and we have removed the junior high from the site. We're just cleaning up the site right now. We'll resurvey it, get our bearings back, and we've got some things we want to look at to make sure that we're building on stable ground. We'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks. And on the design front, the building committee has really settled in on what the building is going to look like. At this point, the building committee and the design and management team are working on the actual documentation of putting the bid documents together. Around April 1st, we'll begin the process of pre-qualifying contractors required under Chapter 149. That pre-qualification process will take about 5 weeks. Not anyone can just bid on this project. They have to be pre-qualified to bid on this project, so that we can review their, not only review their past performance, but we can review their financials to make sure they're worthy of building a fire station. So, that being said, I think that's
Yeah.
that being said, do you have any questions on anything I said while they're doing their bid?
You shut up. Don't be an asshole.
Hey, excuse me, there is no vulgarity, no calling out, no interrupting tonight.
She started it.
We're not 5 years old, so please just sit down. We have an officer here, anybody will be escorted out who's not being proper. So as we are fixing a few glitches, maybe Dan could talk about a neighborhood meeting, or not a neighborhood meeting, just a town meeting that we will be having.
We have had a few neighborhood meetings,
Yeah.
not just one. We had a couple of neighborhood meetings. And we have, we had one complaint during the demolition, which I thought was pretty good. And the complaint was, concerns about vibration. We had already installed vibration monitors around the perimeter of the site, and the vibration did not exceed allowances. So, but it was good that we got a call, and it was good that the resident and the resident was, I'm not trying to be problematic, I just wanted to know how much vibration we're gonna have. So other than that, things have gone really well on our end.
And we will be having other meetings with the public to keep them informed as the project goes on and as the construction starts. is, you know, if we encourage residents, if we see something like we saw today, there's an opening in the fence again across from CVS, and we wanna make sure that that's taken care of right away. because
Already on it.
Yeah,
So-
Thank
because
you.
that's just, you know, we don't want kids getting in there or pets or whatever.
So we had a couple of fence incidents. It hasn't been the kindest winter. I don't think anyone, I think everyone can understand that, but we have responded. As soon as we find out, we get right on it. And there's an emergency call list that we're going through that the police have to also notify the responsible parties whenever there's an issue.
We are doing test borings now of, again, we're doing test borings now of where the site was, to make sure nothing's very there.
We did the test borings, when the building was there, we actually did test pits. An additional 12 test pits over the past week. And we did not find anything too concerning where the old school was. We have a little bit of water over by the gymnasium section of the site, and we're trying to determine where that water's coming from. Doesn't appear to be groundwater, but it might be. So we're doing a little exploration there. I know you have on your 10-year capital plan to replace a storm drain in that area that currently runs underneath the junior high school. I've asked the designers to work with the city to see if it's possible we could run that underneath between the new building and the old building and get it out of the way, even though we're not gonna connect it to anything, so that when you guys do go to connect it, you don't have to dig anything up in the future.
Okay, I thought that might be abandoned and going in a different direction.
Was the Grand Culvert the current roof? Yeah, that was the last. CBD project tied into it.
And
Oh, it's active.
and as far as removing the debris and stuff, it all went well.
So far, no issues. Sorry for the trucks. We probably got another few days of debris removal. The last of the wall foundations came out in the last couple of days. They're just crunching them up so that they can be recycled. They're doing their best to recycle as much as the project is possible.
You're on, Dan.
I'm on, okay. Enough of the chit chat, here we go. So this is pretty similar to what you voted on a year or so ago for the project, with the exception that it's 100% flipped. We in the process of designing the station and with the location of the transformer, location of water and sewer, it made a lot of sense for us to move the building over and put the living quarters closer to Windemar. Waldemar. That was close. Alright, Waldemar, and lower the apparatus bay, which is a lower structure, would, not create a canyon between the existing building and the new building. So the building committee decided to do a complete 180. The building's relatively the same, the exterior design's a little bit different. So there'll be a pedestrian connection between Pauline Street and the back, between the two buildings. And there'll be parking on the left side, near Waldemar, for transactions with the fire department for permitting and inspections and things of that nature. Next, they have, wanna go to the plates? Can you go to the first floor? So the first floor of the building, as you can see, is pretty much the apparatus bay and the entrance lobby to the building. It's really important for a fire station to have complete separation from hazardous materials that they bring back with their equipment. So we have a decontamination area, a laundry area, showers, so that they go from the hot spot, which is the apparatus bay, to warm spot where they get cleaned up. And then when they leave that and head up stair B1 or take the elevator up to the living quarters, they have been completely cleansed of any hazardous material. Fire employees in general have about a 17% higher cancer rate, and this concept of doing complete decon's been around for a few decades, and it will be employed in the new station. Right. The second floor, the second floor, which is the upper portion of the apparatus, because the equipment is tall, that you see in this plan, but really the only the workable space is where the dormitories are. You can see on the left-hand side in the tan color, the bunk rooms for firefighters. You don't currently have that many firefighters on shift, but you do have a lot on shift when you have an event. And we just wanna make sure that we have things covered for the city when that happens. There's a kitchen, a day room, and bathrooms for those that are living on that floor. Training, the training and the emergency operations center is on the third floor, along with the administrative office for the fire department. So basically, all of the functions of the fire department, the equipment with the exception of the apparatus equipment, are on the left side of the building, and the apparatus equipment is on the right side of the building. The tower you see, the little square in the back, is a training tower for them to be able to do training and spread out their hoses and do things like that within their own confines. And the training room, which will be used by the EOC, the fire departments do an awful lot of classroom training in this day and age. So they'll be able to train together as a team.
The elevations.
So what's it gonna look like? So, you had it. So this is what it's gonna look like when you're looking at the front of the building. On the far right of it, you can see the gymnasium section that's left. A little bit of a space between the two apparatus bays that are for small vehicles and boats, I think, the boat goes in there and small vehicles on the two on the right. The four apparatus bays that you see accessing from Pauline Street are complete drive-through. They can go all the way through and out the back towards the park. The driveway, access driveway in the park. On the left-hand side is that three-story building we just walked through. The architect has done a breakup of materials so that it's not all monotone like the original school building was, but more to have different lighter materials towards the top of the building to be more pleasurable to the eye. And we pulled the actual building a little bit towards away from Waldemar. How many meetings have I done that? How many?
Everyone.
Everyone. So the school was really close in that corner. You probably already don't remember how close that school was in the corner. I mean, it was right on top of that street, which is right on top of those houses. The building committee made a conscious decision to pull that back, put some green space on that corner, and open it up, and you're gonna really have a completely different feel of the corner of Pauline and Waldemar. This is the other angle. This is a sunny day. It looks a little different. This is primarily what it's gonna look like by the time we get finished with it. There might be some doodads that have changed and some lettering that has changed, but primarily this is what the building's gonna look like. And we do have a little bit of a video to show you, which is a fly-through of it, and we hope you enjoy it. If you could play that. shiny. Gratis pay. Little trip upstairs. This is the EOC classroom I'm talking about. And that is it for now. Hope you like it.
We do. Thank you. Much appreciated. It's a lot of work that goes into it. We appreciate your help in keeping us on under budget, as we said. Any questions from the council? All right, you're free to go. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Enjoy your meeting.
Thank you.
Come back anytime you want. Anytime you're welcome.
Steve and Tony to come up here and just give a presentation, an overview on snow, the water, and all else, and reasonings behind what we did and how we did it. Sure. Good evening, everybody. So, town manager has asked me to give an overview of the recent blizzard, challenges and we faced, and basically everything that happened during the blizzard and how we addressed it. So we'll start from the beginning. You guys want the pre-storm prep? Yep. So parking ban was put in effect Sunday evening at 8 p.m. At that time, we were in communication with DCR over the length of closing the storm gate, which was we had received a call that afternoon indicating that they intended to close the storm gate at Short Beach from 8 p.m. Sunday to 8 p.m. Monday evening, which I know the town manager and several others, including myself, were a little concerned about the duration of that. But again, it was, I kind of understood it. It was, the gate is closed and opened by Revere DPW with some assistance from DCR. They were going to have all personnel deployed for the storm. So the reasoning was that, that's when they would be able to, felt like they would be able to reopen the gate.
If I could, Steve, just jump in there.
Absolutely.
So between Rep Turco and myself, we had many calls with DCR that night. The problem with, why we were complaining about it was that they were only calling for like one of the ties was 9.5, the other one was 10 feet. their protocol is they don't shut the gate until we hit 12 feet. Now, the logic behind that was they said there was a 4-foot storm surge. Unfortunately, we were only seeing 1 or 2 foot storm surge, and the chief Kalander was here, you can verify that. But so that those numbers didn't jive, but they were using the 4 foot to get to 12, and then using that as justification to close it for that length of time. This isn't over. We requested more than just a call to the DPW, maybe a call to the town manager's office, or put us in the loop and maybe involve us in the meetings before they decide to close it, those kind of things. So we have at least a voice at the table. We expressed our frustrations over that, and, more to follow on that, but I didn't want to think that, there was quite a bit that went on that night, leading up to the storm with regard to the closing the floodgates. So, sorry, Steve.
Oh, that's okay. DPW personnel, it was an all-call event, so DPW personnel were scheduled to be in and ready for storm at 8 p.m. at the same time with the parking ban. At that time, they're doing safety checks, fluid checks on their vehicles, checking fuel, contractors, taking contractor attendance. We're doing route assignments, coordinating with storm detail officers. Obviously, it was a parking ban, so we were communicating and police were starting their tow operations. We did have much better compliance in this storm than we did in the prior storm. So, but there was still vehicles that were illegally parked. They were dealt with. Next slide. Monday morning. So this is Monday morning. Blizzard is well underway. We're at this time we're in full plowing operation. Seeing 2 to 3 inches per hour of snowfall rates, extremely high winds, whiteout conditions. DPW staff is working to keep the roadways passable while dealing with a multitude of things. Started with down trees, down power lines, even down telephone poles. One actually landed on top of one of our loaders. We were able to get the loader out. National Grid was called in. That was actually on Veterans Road, and that pole was down for the majority of that storm. 4:10 a.m. DPW, I got a power outage alarm from the PRV. This was the first notification to me that there was a power outage in town. PRV switched from PLC control to manual presets under battery backup at that time. The system was checked. System is operating normal and appears to be maintaining system pressure. We resumed plow operations at that point. We're continuing to monitor. We still had remote access at that time, continuing to monitor the pressure, and all is well at 4:10 a.m. At 6 a.m., things changed quickly. 6:02 a.m., notified of a high tank alarm, which is the Fond Bar tank. System pressure spikes to 90 psi for approximately 1 minute. That is the beginning of the chain of events that quickly followed. 6:25 a.m., I received the first call for a water main break. This is at Veterans Road in the area of Locust Street. It's on a 12-inch feeder main, which is one of our main feeders to the tank, also to pressurize the town. Both myself and my ops manager come off of our plow routes. We go to assess the break and start isolating, trying to shut down. Of course, valves aren't easily accessible. They're now under inches of snow, but also inches of hard pack ice underneath the snow. So locating these valves is extremely difficult. I had to call my water tech off of his route with the metal detector so that we could try to locate valve boxes. Again, very challenging in those situations and physical hazards. It was quickly determined, though, that it wasn't just one break on Veterans Road. We had 3 independent breaks along this roadway. So continuing to try to isolate and locate valves. Within that 5 to 10 minutes of that initial call for the main break, the calls continued to come in for additional water main breaks at other areas in town. It was a total of 7 main breaks, all in. By the time that pressure spike caused basically 7 simultaneous pressure breaks, main breaks. At that time, headed to the PRV station to try to get an idea of what's going on. Clearly, something's not right. We get to the PRV station, and it's PRV station is at the Revere end of town near Short Beach. So we're dealing with wind-blown snow at that station from the parking lot in. We kind of had to basically dig ourselves into the PRV station to get in. Once we got into the station, we quickly see we're in a high system flow, which is, due to the 7 simultaneous breaks. They're just essentially open hydrants, right? And we see erratic pressure and a dangerously high water level in the Fawn Bar tank. Only feet away from overflow conditions, which is a very serious situation as well. At that point, the PRVs were manually throttled to lower the system pressure and to try to slow the rising tank level. And a call was put out to MWRA control. Actually got on the phone with both Lisa Bina and Valerie Moran, who's the head of operations over there, and initiated a backfeed, made a request, told them that the PRV is compromised. We're unable to regulate pressure, and we're unable to stop the tank level. And we're able to slow it by manually throttling it, but it was inevitable that we were going to need to shut the station down and initiate a backfeed from the Deer Island side. While MWRA coordinated a valve team to initiate the backfeed, both myself and Aaron, my ops manager, returned to the field to continue trying to isolate the 7 active breaks, trying to clear valves at every location. And we also had to clear the valve chamber at Taft's Ave, which is the vault that MWRA needs to be able to access to initiate the backfeed. Kind of like the short beach side of town, the vault is on the causeway between the last house on Taft's Ave and in the island. So it's an unprotected area. The weather was just the snow rates, the wind. We're soaking wet. It was like having 2x4s strapped to your legs with duct tape. You couldn't even bend your legs because your pants were frozen. We fought through it. We got the valves uncovered and prepped for MWRA. Still waiting on an ETA for the valve team to arrive. We could continue to try to isolate the feeder mains on Veterans Road. Again, we had 3 breaks there, and we had a break on, we knew of a break. At this point, we knew of all 7 breaks. We had breaks at 3 on Veterans Road. We had a break on Marshall, a break on Beale, a break at Cora at Belcher. We had a break on a valve at Washington at Winthrop. I think I touched on all of them. So the reason we're trying to isolate the feeder mains first is we're trying to maintain, we had to throttle the PRV. We're trying to maintain, trying to stabilize pressure. We're trying to maintain adequate pressures throughout the town. Adequate pressures being, at least above 30 PSI. 25 to 30 PSI is required for basic fire protection. So to achieve this, we needed to keep the compromised PRV feed open enough to maintain the town pressure at or above this range for as long as possible in order to minimize loss of fire protection. Obviously, that's a situation where we're not having fire protection in town, with the power outage, it's critical. You know, people are using, now using generators, they're on, they got space heaters. A lot of people are trying to now use, fireplaces, wood burning fireplaces, so the risk of fire is real. So trying to maintain fire protection. At 7:30 a.m., MWRA reports an ETA of 8:30 a.m. for the arrival of their valve team, and again asked if their valve chamber is accessible, which we had previously uncovered, but within 30 minutes of trying to isolate water mains with the rate of snow, that quickly got covered again. So at 7:30 a.m., I'm sorry, at 7:30 a.m. we got MWRA finally committing to a arrival time of 8:30 a.m. So in preparation for the backfeed from the Deer Island side, we shut the PRV completely down at 8:20 a.m., killing water pressure to the town. That's when everybody noticed their loss of water. Or some may have noticed it before that if they were closer to one of the 7 breaks. They would have lost water pressure due to the main break. But once we shut the PRV down, it killed the pressure to the town, and with main break isolation efforts temporarily are interrupted at that time while we go back down to the Taft Ave chamber to initiate the backfeed with MWRA, help them re-clear the valves that we had initially cleared, and initiate the backfeed. MWRA did respond. They did get there a little after 8:30. Took them approximately 45 minutes to initiate the backfeed from the Deer Island side. Again, getting these valve boxes open with inches of ice on top of them, we're using propane torches, hammers, chisels, just trying to get through the ice, trying to get to the box covers, which are also frozen at that point. So it's an effort to try to get these valve covers open under these conditions. But 9:15 a.m. The Deer Island backfeed is initiated, which then restored controlled water pressure throughout the town. So we're now being fed from the MWRA side. They obviously are feeding us at a controlled pressure as opposed to our open PRVs that are unable to really be regulated previously. Again, I already touched upon the new supply from the Deer Island side obviously refeeds all the open breaks, which we still have 7 open breaks. We haven't been able to isolate. We isolated one main break on Veterans Road previous to pulling away to help MWRA. So we still have 6 active water main breaks when our backfeed came from MWRA. And again, I've said it, I'll say it again, the isolation effort is incredibly challenging and dangerous due to the weather conditions, the physical hazards of downed power lines, fallen trees, ice, sinkholes, which I'm sure everybody saw the truck in the sinkhole on the news. It's all real. It's all happening, and we're dealing with all that stuff and trying to get our work done. The final main break is isolated at 12 p.m. So I want to stop there for a second because that's a pretty big feat for myself, the operations manager, and we had our water tech for a little while, but we isolated 7 main breaks in approximately 5 hours. So less than an hour per break, and each location had the same challenges with trying to locate valves and just trying to stay safe while doing it. At the time that the last main break is isolated, DPW coordinates with MWRA for the pump team for Girdlestone. MWRA gives an initial ETA of 1:30 p.m. At that time. We had actually, previous to this, when I initiated the backfeed with Valerie Moran, we also talked about a pump team being needed, and so she had started working on it at that time, but we didn't get the final confirmation until 12 p.m., which was an ETA of 1:30. By the time they were able to put together a pump team to come out and help out. Approximately the same time, a little after 12:30 p.m., fire department began to pump out basements in the area of Girdlestone. Next slide. So after the water mains were isolated by DPW and the MWRA pumping crew confirmed that they are being dispatched, you know, the phone calls, I was able to return my ops manager to his plow route, which had somewhat fallen behind, and we got my water tech back on his route, which had somewhat fallen behind. We did have coverage on these routes during their absence. I had to get back on my route. I also, you know, work a route during the storm. But while I'm working my route, we're making phone calls to contractors and supply houses. This is still a middle of the storm. You know, the weather conditions are still terrible. So trying to get people to commit to responding was a little difficult, but we were able to got a couple of contractors that agreed to dig out their equipment and come down, and I was able to secure Malden Waterworks. They actually brought somebody in special to get us the parts needed to repair. I mean, we stock parts, but we're not stocked to repair 7 different size mains all at the same time. So we needed materials, we needed supplies. We were able to secure them and get commitments, and again had to pull somebody off a route to go pick up some of these parts. The person I used was the person that his truck was in a sinkhole on Marshall, so he wasn't able to plow with the truck, so he took one of our small pickup trucks and ran out to Middleton to try to pick up the parts that we needed. Middleton and Malden, we had two different locations that we had to pick up parts. At this time, we're also following up with National Grid, or town manager assisted with following up with National Grid to confirm when they could commit to coming to town. Obviously, the National Grid won't respond if wind conditions are over a certain mile per hour, which clearly this event had. So their response was delayed. MWRA arrives at 3 p.m. to Girdlestone even though we had an initial ETA of 1:30 p.m. to initiate the pump down. Girdlestone was fully pumped down by 4 p.m. 5 of the 7 main breaks were able to be isolated in a manner that didn't interrupt water service. However, the residents on Marshall Street and Beale Street were not so lucky. That shutdown, did affect water service. So the priority of main repairs begin on Marshall Street and Beale Street to restore water to those affected areas. At this time, we had commitments from our contractors, so they were en route. I believe the first contractor, MWRA, also put together a water main repair team. MWRA and the contractor both mobilized around the same time. Approximately 5 p.m. is when the water main repairs began. Maybe a little bit earlier than that, 4:30ish to 5 p.m. On Marshall and Beale Street. Next slide. So Monday afternoon / evening, again, the MWRA crews along with the private crews are on site or en route. They were on site around 4:30, 5 o'clock to begin fixing Marshall Street, with MWRA mobilized on Marshall, and our private contractor mobilized on bail, and they started those water main repairs. The water at both locations was restored by 9:30 p.m. on Monday evening. I'll stop there. I think that's, for a moment, I think that's worthy of talking about. Again, there was a lot going on in the storm, but we had all water restored to all affected people by 9:30 p.m. Pretty big feat for our department, and obviously with the help of contractors and MWRA. National Grid, an organization with almost endless resources, didn't restore power to the town, to everybody, until over a day later. So I thought that response, being able to isolate and get everything restored, by 9:30 that evening was a success. National Grid crews arrived for power restoration efforts later that evening. I'm not exactly sure what time they mobilized in town. The fire chief would probably have that information. And where they began their work. Girdlestone and Tileston obviously are pumped out. Approximately 4 p.m. is when that street was vacated of water. Still debris and ice on the street that needed to be cleaned up, but the water was vacated at that time. Point Shirley neighborhood was the last large chunk of residential power to be restored at approximately 4:30 a.m. However, there was still remaining services that didn't get restored until the end of the day on Tuesday. So our next slide is next steps, but we probably should have included a slide. I'm going to touch upon what happened at the PRV. There was several issues that contributed to the event, or the events. The manual presets on the PRVs were improperly set to a range that was above the operating parameters of the system. What this means is that when the power was lost at the PRV and the system changed from PLC control over to manual operation, the system pressure was not controlled within the proper range for either pressure or tank elevations. That was a oversight by the engineer and their vendors. We had a town paid for construction administration on this project. We had a team of specialists. We even had MWRA's eyes on it. Why the manual PRV set points did not correspond to the operating parameters of the PLC is clearly an oversight, and we've informed both our engineer and the contractors of this, and that we will be pursuing their insurances. The second major issue, which caused the pressure spike, or didn't protect us against the pressure spike, was the failure of a pressure relief valve to open, which allowed the system to pressurize above 90 psi. Normal operating PSI for the system is 75 psi, and the surge relief valve is supposed to open at 83 psi. So if there's a pressure spike, that valve should open and equalize pressure and not allow system pressure to exceed 83 psi. Again, we're looking at the valve manufacturer, and this valve was tested during commissioning of the station before it was put online. So we're trying to understand why it didn't open at the proper pressure, even though it was told to us that it was properly set and properly spec'd for the 83 psi dump. Next steps. We need to ensure that the settings on the PRV manual backup control are set to correctly correlate with the PLC operating parameters. We need to retest or replace the surge valve to ensure that it releases at the proper pressure 83 PSI, and then we need to bring the PIVs back online. Currently, we're still being backfed from MWRA. And they've been great neighbors, they've been very, very helpful, very patient. Their eyes will also be on the recommissioning of the PIV, once all these corrections and both programming and retesting of the valves is completed. We need to make sure that the battery backup for the computer system at the PIV is adequate moving forward. We also need to consider a backup system, a backup generator system for added redundancy. Even though, again, the system has battery backup, and if those parameters on the PIV were properly set, we wouldn't be in this situation, but we are. But obviously the PLC control is a lot more finely tuned. It can regulate pressures. Once you're in manual control, your fluctuations of pressure is a little bit greater and a little bit slower. The PLC is able to keep that pressure within a PSI, as opposed to a range of probably 5 PSI on manual control. We need to make sure that anyone who needs to make insurance claims has the proper contact information for our carrier, but the town will also make sure that our carrier files a claim against both the PIV vendor and the engineering group, if need be, to ensure that they pay for the water main repairs, along with any damage caused to the homes and tiles to the ground. Next slide. So, Tony, this is a slide that you wanted to include. You want to?
Yeah, I just wanted. I mean, a lot of people have had concerns about why where we're at with the stormwater system down there. So I wanted to make sure we put the slide in. Obviously the council in the past has allocated the funds, all the necessary funds that we need to do the rest of the engineering work, design work for Tilestone, Girdlestone, and Pico stormwater systems. We still need the additional funding to do the seawall extension and permitting. Over at Pico area, that cost us approximately $204,000. We still need to find a funding source for that, but the Tilestone, Girdlestone, and Pico stormwater systems is just about done. What we're waiting on now is and we have the money for it, for the design and engineering, to finalize the easement plan for the Pleasant Park Yacht Club. Do we have to cross over there with a pipe? So do we need an easement from them? The survey work has been completed, so we're just waiting for that plan. Once that easement's in place, then we can finalize that. And then we'll be ready to have documents to be put out to bid, as it says in the next point. But then at that point we'll need to identify a funding source. Obviously, Steve, we've talked $4, $5, maybe $6 million for this project. Who knows where it's going to come in at? Once we start getting estimates. But we obviously that money is not available, so more than likely some sort of funding source, whether it's through a stormwater fee that we talked about. I know Director Callis brought that up in the past. We talked about a stormwater fee or a debt exclusion to fund this project, but that'll be up to the council, and we'll have to talk about funding sources at that point, so we can get it done. But I want to be clear: the council is already paid for, and this project's designed and ready to go. And now we just need to figure out how to pay for it so we can get the upgrades done. But we saw it in Revere the other night and other places too. Even if we had a properly, the amount of water that was coming down the street, certainly it would have been less had we had a proper stormwater system, but with that flow of water, there may have still been some damage to homes, water in basements. There was that much water coming down the street. So, I want to be clear about that. But regardless, this work needs to be done, and we've been working on it since I got here, back in 2022 when it was brought to our attention, and, we're working on it, and we want to make sure we finish the project. But that's where we're at with it. I don't want to think it's just sitting there and we're not working on it. We are working on it. Steve and I have already had meetings with the Pleasant Park Yacht Club. We're trying to finalize the easement. Once that's in place, we'll be able to move forward. So, some other things we're doing, areas of focus, obviously water mains. Steve and I are working on that for this year's capital plan. With the ARPA money, we were able to replace, I think, 12 miles of main, somewhere around there. We've got 45 miles of main in town, so we still have a lot more work to do. We're focusing on our most vulnerable water mains around town, the ones that we see the most breaks right now. Looking for our funding sources other than our water and sewer capital plan to ease the burden on the ratepayers, and then obviously ensure that we do ongoing maintenance, with regard to flushing and any sort of other work we need to do with the PRV valve stations and the sewer pump stations to make sure everything stays in good working order. With regard to flooding concerns, we have applied for funding. Congresswoman Clark's office reached out for some budget earmarks for FY27. Obviously, no guarantee we're going to get anything, but this is federal money that's not tied to any sort of restrictions that some of the state money might have on it. So we did put in for the Morton and Banks area. Obviously, there's tidal influence there, but we wanted at minimum do the engineering installation of the new outfall vaults and the flapper valves along Morton and Banks, because we know we get a lot of tidal water that comes in and comes up through the storm drains there, so we want to try to get that done. So I think we requested 1.2 million for that, about 250 on engineering, and then we figure there 800,000 or so, or close to $1 million will be enough to do the work down there. And then obviously we always looking to apply for grants to address flooding concerns for Winthrop.
That's a multi-phase project. I mean, there's several things that are contributing to the issues over there, but this would be phase one of that multi-phase solution for the flooding situation in that area.
Just summary, obviously under the challenging and extreme conditions, DPW, public safety, they performed an amazing job keeping everybody in Winthrop safe. Obviously, we regret the flooding on Towson and Girdlestone, and the damage that caused certainly stress to the families there, flooding basements, loss of heating systems, et cetera, et cetera. But rest assured, we did everything we could to minimize those impacts, and that was our goal throughout the entire storm. And once we realized the problems we were having, and then obviously we continue to learn from these, and like Steve said, we've got work to do on the PRV valves. One other thing I did want to mention, during the power restoration and everything, we had concerns about some of the larger, at the time, there were large chunks of 14th and Seal Harbor that were down for power, areas like that. We weren't sure what time they were going to come back, so we did mobilize, and we had a shelter ready to go at the Cumming School. Jane from our Clear team, Sean Driscoll from Parks and Rec, one of our firefighters were there. They had set up cots there. We were ready to go. We had food ready. Keep this open. We only had one guest attend, but luckily we were able to get power back relatively short order. So, but we were ready to go if we needed to and move people over there and take care of that. We were working on that as well. So with that, certainly open to questions from the council. But thank you for allowing us. It's mostly Steve.
Thanks, I really appreciate your time, Steve and Tony, on this. I just want a couple of things. Denise, this report will be on the website tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes, it will be.
On the website tomorrow, okay. And I know most people understand, but if you could just explain when you talk about backfed from MWRA, the difference from coming in from Revere.
Yeah, so under normal operations, we take water through meter 41, which is on the Short Beach side. Enters our PRV station at 110 psi. We reduce it to an operating pressure of 75 psi. And of course, that fluctuates 75 to 78 psi as our normal operating pressure. And then it goes on to the town, to pressurize the town. When we shut down that feed, the back feed, we're also connected to MWRA on the Taft Ave side. So they have the ability. We have the ability to feed them in an emergency, and they have the ability to feed us. By closing one side and opening the other, just changes direction of flow. Can add some, different hydraulic situations, but it's controlled, pressurized flow at that point.
And so we have one Revere, one MWRA. Now there's another feed, is there not, going into East Boston that we're trying to get fixed? And
There's and they built the bridge. We had them put an 8-inch water main, across the bottom of the bridge connecting Boston to Winthrop. It's obviously it's not buried, so it's winter time. Utilizing that during the winter. It has its limitations, but for most of the year, it's a viable, backfeed, so we could help Boston, or they could help us. Unfortunately, the first year that the bridge was put in service, Boston didn't close their valve on their side, and they left the pipe charged with water, stagnant water. That first winter, it froze. Boston acknowledged what they did, but they never made, the repair's not made. It's an expensive repair because you're going to work off a barge. You can't really get to it easily. But it's, it's definitely worth repairing. But we have MWRA's back feed, we're lucky to have MWRA. And that's what we use anytime we need, in these situations we need that.
And we have been talking to WRA to try to get that resolved with their help too, and they seem to be willing to help us out there.
Council President, if I could add to that too, I mean, obviously there were some questions and concerns. I mean, that's obviously why during the power outage we had that Saturday, beautiful sunny Saturday, the whole town was no power. That's why we didn't have any of these water main break issues, because we were still being backfed from Deer Island at the time. We obviously wouldn't put the system back online without knowing. At that point, we didn't know what was going on with the PRV. We hadn't got the report yet, so we left the back feed in place, and it's still in place until we get this rectified.
I'll start at the right end of the table. Councilor Koskinen, if you have any questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. A lot to take in. Thank you for that report as well. And again, I feel for the people who were impacted by this as well. As far as the past 2 years I've been on the council, we have discussed many issues as it relates to the town readiness, the town action plans, the redundancy, if any, in this town, or the auditing of the town prior to any possible emergency situation. And I think there might be a little disconnect there. With all emergency operations, communications is key. I'm just gonna make comment on what I believe should be done as we go forward, and I'm not gonna point any fingers. I'm not gonna blame anybody in this room at all. I just think we should have a comprehensive plan to look at the town from a standpoint, worst case scenario, and excuse me, Chief, if this already exists, which I believe there is one, but I would like to see that as well. The local emergency action plan that was in place many years ago and probably still is in place. But I know that I had a couple of calls from people who were talking about that. What happened to the LEAP program? The website is somewhat outdated when you access that site. I would like that updated as well. I think a comprehensive audit of the town as it relates to worst case scenario and possibility of a fall like we just had right now. Thank God we didn't have a fire. And again, I'm not here to blame anybody, but we were very lucky. And yes, in a timely manner, things were put back to order. I know myself on Belcher Street, very confused as it relates to the information. I think I would like to also see the network of communications, a reverse 911 to inform the town. Maybe that was initiated. I'm unaware of that. I did not receive a phone call. There's a lot more we can do to assure the people and the residents of this town that we are ready. We are ready. A lot of criticisms. I get a lot of phone calls, which I didn't have answers to. Again, I would like to plan on changing that as I go forward. And as far as the LEAP program, Local Emergency Action Plan, I would like to review that and get that up and running. I would recommend that our Safety, Health, and DPW Committee get on that right away if possible, who's ever chairing that. So again, those are my recommendations. I'm not gonna blame anybody here, but these are things we've touched on in the past months I've been on the council. So again, thank you, town manager and town president. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Tessner.
First and foremost, thank you, Director Calla. You and your whole team did amazing work during that blizzard, but not only that, but you guys were out working almost 24/7 the whole month of February. Once that first snowstorm hit, you spent the whole time clearing streets, and then you had to go back and do it all again with that second storm, and then deal with 7 water main breaks in the middle of a blizzard, whiteout conditions and freezing rain and water. I'm sure is almost knee deep. Thank you, amazing work. Someday someone will make a movie about it. It'll be a good one too. It'll probably win awards. Thank you, Chief. You know your guys were out there the whole time too. They worked several overtime shifts, as far as I've heard from a bunch of the guys during the whole month of February as well. And thanks to Chief Goodwin and his folks over at the police department as well. They're all working overtime shifts, and we know that everyone's gonna do the overtime because we're all short-handed, and that's just the way it is. That's just the reality of the budget right now and for the foreseeable future. I don't know what you could have done better. I think the way you handled it was pretty amazing. No one's gonna be happy about it because everybody was inconvenienced, and some people lost a lot of monetary value in their own homes because of all that water. And I'm really happy to hear, Manager Marino, that we're going after the insurance carriers of the folks who installed our system what sounds like improperly. So thank you for that as well. In terms of a funding source, you're probably sick of me saying it, Manager Marino. Chapter 209, the Acts of 2018, the Environmental Bond Bill. It reads, I'll read you the section. Provided further that 15 million shall be expended for the hydraulic modeling, analysis, and evaluation of flooding vulnerabilities in the design, permitting, construction of upgrades to the coastal infrastructure to mitigate coastal flooding in the town of Winthrop, including but not limited to seawall construction, repair, upgrades, and improvements to flood drainage infrastructure and increased flood storage. 15 million. It's been available for 8 years.
Needs to be funded in the capital plan and approved by the governor.
It needs to be funded in the capital plan and approved by the governor, yeah, and that would require the town to be not combative with the Commonwealth. We'd have to be partnering with the Commonwealth, not fighting them for every quarter inch of space. It would behoove us to go after that money in partnership with the Commonwealth so that we're not out asking folks to dig deeper in their own pocket to raise their own taxes again. We just did that. I mean, I'll keep repeating myself until we actually get some of that money, but I think the major point of my whole speech there was a big thank you to the director, the chief, and the chief across the street, and to you too, Manager Marino. We really appreciate the work that you did to keep us safe in a time that was not safe for all of you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Council Noir.
I'd just like to say thank you again to it. I think it goes unnoticed sometimes how much the BW does dig in and helps this town out in so many certain circumstances, and the fire department and the police department also. It's pretty amazing the work that gets done. I'm gonna kind of change the conversation, not to keep following along with everybody else. I'm throwing on my my maintenance planning hat. First off, I don't know if everybody understands what a PLC is. Is this a programmable logic controller? So basically the brains, basically the computer. PLCs need maintenance regularly, more of an inspection and testing of them. And not only that, when you have physical valves that have to open and close, it's nice to see that some maintenance is looked at, but in my head, putting this on is that when that was built, there should have been a plan already in place by the engineer to say, this is the interval that has to be tested and given to us. That's when any machine that's built or any car that's built, there's a maintenance plan with it. So I think my concern is this hit us hard having this issue. Just for knowledge, is there any kind of alert if this just, how does that alert go out if this locations fail? How does that alert go out to notify people in town that it failed? Gotta watch out.
So the alarm parameters are remote call outs. We do get call outs, high pressure alarm, power failure. And we got those alarms, and we responded to the station when we got them. As far as the maintenance of the PLC and the maintenance of the PRVs themselves, that programmable logic, the programming is on a monthly schedule. The valves are exercised and they're swapped. So, there's two large 16-inch PRVs and there's a 6-inch PRV. 6-inch PRV works in conjunction with one of the larger PRVs at all times. So by swapping monthly, they're exercised, which is what, valve maintenance needs, exercised and they go through the pressure cycle. What the failure was, and even in the exercising part of it, and there is maintenance, there is a maintenance plan. It was the changeover to the power. So the high point the high point set points on the manual control, those were tested, were told to have been tested during the commissioning of the station. But the actual maintenance is only with the PLC. When the power got lost, the PLC is now out of the picture, and everything's on manual control, which is working off regular pressure pilots on the valve itself. So we gotta incorporate a power failure test, a regular test, right? And that's gonna, that would probably indicate taking things offline, checking elevation in the tank, making sure that the elevation in the tank is proper, because we were near an overflow, which could have been another big event. You start, emptying that water tower off the back of Bonbar Hill, you'll erode things pretty rapidly, right? So we avoided that, but we got close to it. We came within 2 feet of overflow, so it was close. So you're right. Those, the power failure piece of this has to be checked, and but the actual exercising does happen. The valves function; they're just not being told how to function properly.
Yeah. So yeah, usually with PLCs, it goes into like a fail-safe mode.
Right.
So
that was it. So their fail-safes on the manual side were out of range. So we were running with no fail-safes, right? Like driving a car down a hill without brakes. Right?
So my other question, kind of tying into this, with this being identified, is there any other systems in town that might need to be looked at or addressed? So
On the water
potentially-
side of things, no, the PRV is that's your brains of your distribution system. I can't speak to other systems, but I'm sure there's building systems that probably could use, a more frequent maintenance.
So I'm thinking also on like, this is water coming in, what about sewer going out, any systems there that
The sewer
potentially
systems,
we need to look at?
is gravity fed, but we do have automated pump stations, which I didn't even speak to that, but of course with power outage, we have backup generators on 3 of our 5. So that was, another thing. We avoided any SSOs, which is sewer system sanitary sewer overflows. So, we were able to avoid a lot, but we came close.
I appreciate all the work everybody did during the storm, and I feel for everybody's house that was affected by this. And it's good to hear that initial steps to help residents has been done too.
Councilor Reed.
I just want to have one follow-up question for what Councilor Milano, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just in terms of, so we covered the water, the PRV system, we spoke about the sewage system, the SSO, there was no overflow. Are there any pump systems, automated pump systems for the stormwater systems?
Not
right
at the
now?
moment. There probably
Right now.
will be as part of the engineering design for the service zone. But as of now, no, it's completely gravity.
Thank you.
Councilor Reed.
You guys did a great job given the circumstances, but obviously it sounds like this PRVs are a point of failure. And we're probably gonna need to bring them back online before we have a power solution for that building. So before it comes back online, is there any thought to putting in a process where in the event of another power failure, we get somebody out there that has eyes on it while the power's out? Just to limit this from happening again, because it sounds like the UPS only lasted about 2 hours. We lost power in the building.
So yeah, we lost our interface, but again, those PRVs don't require power to operate. The fail safes, the manual fail safes, the manual set points were not set to the proper range. So once those set points are properly calibrated, the power outage shouldn't have affected, we shouldn't have had an issue with the power outage. It was because we had no fail-safes, or fail-safes within the proper range to protect us in the power outage. So, but I absolutely think that we still should have, we get the battery backup on the PLC, but you're right, it's a limited backup, right? A generator, we do have a generator on the pump station, the adjacent pump station. So, I think we should look at least getting some circuitry from that into the PRV station to at least give us, backup generator power for lights and PLC and things of that nature. And it shouldn't be a big expense. I mean, at least I don't see it as a big expense. I don't think you need a separate generator for that station. They're within 30 feet of each other.
Thank you. Vice President Swell.
Well, this has been a moment, right? Thanks for your work and appreciate it. Appreciate it from Fire Chief, Police Chief, Tony, you. Total cost to the town. What would you estimate the cost of this situation?
Total cost of just the water piece of it, or the snowstorm?
Everything that is damaged or needs to be repaired, what is the total cost to the town to, first of all, estimate the damage and see what we can do to repair the damage, as well as repair what we need to do on the town?
I don't know the private property damage. I'm not privy to that. I couldn't even attempt to put a value to that. I'm sure the homeowners have that information. As far as the water repairs, they were all repaired for approximately $100,000, just under. I don't know what other damage.
And well, you suggested
there shouldn't be an expense for the PRV. The valve. Again, we're gonna be requesting that they either sign off that it's, that it functions properly, or they're gonna replace that valve. That's not gonna be a town expense. Nothing in the PRV is gonna be a town expense.
So the repairs that you would recommend for the town, or the changes that you would recommend, are not the town expenses, they are from the contractors that failed?
Yeah, everything that caused this is in that PRV station, which is all brand new components. The system is brand new. So the valves are not an issue. The valves function properly. It's the control piece of those valves that wasn't set to the proper clearance. But once that's dialed in, which again, it's just that's just adjusting set points and testing it to make sure that it's functioning at the proper pressures that you want it to. So there's no damage in that station per se that requires big expense or overhaul. We just made those expenses when we built the system.
And final question, I do have a question about private property, only because when you have an automobile accident, for example, and you report it, then your next year's insurance rates skyrocket because you reported an accident.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, for those who have had experienced damage to their property, how is the town working with them so that they don't necessarily have to go to their private insurance companies if indeed we can demonstrate that it's a town problem and that the town should be repairing their properties?
My understanding, and I'll let Tony speak to it, is that the claims are gonna go to the town's insurance company.
Okay.
Yeah, we've sent the information out. In fact, I sent some forms out today to people. Anybody who else has claims, please call my office so we can get you the information.
I was told 2 weeks ago that I have to go through my own
You do,
insurance.
yeah, absolutely. It's just like car insurance. You have to start. But what Council Swope's not realizing is even on a car insurance claim, if you get rear-ended and you put a claim in your insurance, your rates don't go up because it's not your fault, right? They end up, it's called subrogation, they end up subrogating to the other policy. Same happens with homeowners insurance. Their policyholder won't claim out, they'll subrogate to our policy, and our policy will end up subrogating to the vendor's policy, but they will be able to be made whole, but there's a process in place. They'll start there, but it's gonna end up being a Maya claim.
I think that's really helpful, Tony, and I'm so glad you said that, because I can't imagine that anybody here who's experienced that problem doesn't appreciate the fact that the town will cover it.
Right, and that's what that was explained, and like anything, there's a process. You get in a car accident, you don't just say, okay, I'm not gonna call my insurance company, you have to start somewhere, and you start with your homeowners, and that's how it happens. So unless their homeowners were to take the full brunt of it, then of course, then maybe your rates go up and you get canceled, that would happen, but they're gonna subrogate to Maya, Maya's gonna end up, so it'll end up getting covered in their insurance company, unless they have additional coverages that they, above and beyond what the norm is, then they may choose to activate those, but the standard coverage and replacing the components, that's all gonna end up picked up by Maya.
Thank you.
Our insurance carrier.
Thank you, Councilor Dunn.
Thank you, President Lettieri. Thank you, Town Manager Marino and DPW Director Calla for the debriefing of the storm. I really appreciate all the information. I'm grateful for the hours and hard work that the DPW crews and all the other crews put in the harshest conditions. Their commitment to the community reflects the very best of public service, and I really appreciate that. My heart does go out to the victims in Precinct 2 that suffered the flooding. I do want to let anyone know that if you have any additional questions, please reach out to me, to my town council email, and I would be more than happy to help you through anything I can help you through. I extend my sincere appreciation to the entire DPW team for their resilience during this winter. The teamwork and unwavering dedication to the residents of Winthrop is something to be proud of. I do have just a couple questions about the valve boxes. Steve, do we have the valve box locations on a GPS or GIS that are tied into where we can actually go out with a rod and with a?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
It's
Difficult
just
conditions.
At that time,
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
We were going off, ties.
Right. Okay.
Right, the one thing, if it's a sunny day and everything's exposed, it's, but when it's under snow, and then it was that 3 inches of ice at the bottom of all that snow.
Yeah,
It
possible.
made it very, very
Yeah.
difficult.
Okay, thank you. And then another thing, just hindsight, maybe we put the PRV station and the valve box at Deer Island into our routes, so we're maintaining them during storms so that they're not afterthoughts and we have to, and in a state of emergency, that we don't have to dig ourselves out, that they are part of the route on a storm basis, that it's a stop along the way.
It's handwork.
It
It's
is,
not a plow.
right,
It's not a plow route,
right.
unfortunately.
Well, maybe we get a shovel brigade going, and Joseph and I had talked about that, and maybe that's something that we need to do as residents to help out. Thank you.
Councilor Romero.
Yes, thank you. So I know a lot's already been said. I would also like to thank our DPW director and his whole crew, our fire chief and his crew, our police chief, the whole police department, town manager Marino, President Lettieri's leadership during this time. Most of the questions I had prepared have actually already been answered, but the one main thing I wanted to ask was specifically about our town's own water pumps. My understanding is that the town has them for flooding emergencies. They've been used in the past, but why were they ready going into this storm?
They were ready. The problem, they're in our garage and they're ready to go. The problem is, like I said, this was a 15+ inch storm with extreme snowfall rates, basically in the bulk of this. Pulling people off their plow routes you just didn't have that option. You would have lost the plow routes quickly. What I mean by losing the plow routes is once you fall behind on a plow route with ice conditions underneath and that much heavy snowfall, you don't recover until after the snow stops. It doesn't matter how good your 4-wheel drive is. It doesn't matter even with a front end loader. It's like trying to move heavy snow on an ice rink. Your tires just spin. If you don't keep up with it, you will lose it quickly. And again, once you lose the street, you lose it for the duration of the storm. So this conversation about property loss, which is terrible, could be life lost. Right? If we lose a street, you don't have access. Fire, ambulance, police, they can't access those roads. So heart attacks, God forbid, a child choking, those treatable events, right, if an ambulance can get there quickly, become potential fatalities. So
So we
I didn't have the luxury or the ability to pull resources off the plow routes.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we have the equipment, but we're short on people. Would additional workers or something to that effect, would they have been able to help in this situation?
Additional workers always would be helpful, yeah. You know, if I had, you know, people to spare during that storm, yeah, we would have deployed that pump, you know. But again, I couldn't deploy that pump until the water main was isolated. And, you know, we had a commitment from MWRA, once we finished our last isolation at 12 p.m. We had a commitment from MWRA that they would be on site by 1:30, and they tried. There was roadways you couldn't travel. You know, they assembling a team, getting their equipment, and getting to Winthrop took an hour and a half longer than they had hoped. So, and just me getting, you know, if I pulled people off the plow routes and I had to go to the garage and hook up to the pump, it takes 4 people to I mean, you know, Mark Senich in the room, he's seen the operation many times.
I thank them every storm.
You know, so you know what's entailed with the pump down there.
I do, but you know what? You also have people like me that would contribute to that. I have no problem lending a hand ever. You know, and I'm sorry. I'm going to speak sooner or later, and I won't be as kind.
It's the resource.
And I would also like to reiterate Councilor Costigan's point about having an emergency relief plan that's more, not necessarily well known. I don't know if that's the phrase for it, but I feel like there was a lot of confusion from residents themselves what they're supposed to do once the storm hit. I know that we had, I believe it was at the Cummings School, we had a center set up late, but if that was the plan, we should have had an announcement. I would like before the storm took place, just in case, because I think we all expected there was high potential for stuff like power outages. And especially for my precinct, Precinct 3, a large section of us lost power for almost 24 hours. And very dangerous. Someone, like their phones did, they have no way to get communication. I think the town, reverse 911 call, should have put out information to them sooner, so they would have had the time to prepare and make their own plan in case need be, so they're not scrambling. It's my suggestion. But I can't thank you enough for all the work that you and your whole department does, and everyone in town, so thank you very much.
Thank you once again, and thanks to Public Safety, DPW, Town Manager. You know, we had, I'm gonna go full circle here, but we did have a storm like 2 or 3 weeks before this with 10 inches more snow. And, you know, different type snow, wetter snow, and then obviously the water breaks. We got through the first storm pretty well, and unfortunately we had issues that water, and it's, you know, we talk about the council, all it does doesn't do day-to-day operations, although we might want to and sometimes get more involved than we should. And we talk about precinct councilors or councilors at large, and the bottom line is it's you know 19,000 people, but it's a small town, and people know everybody knows everybody. So it could be a water break or a flooding situation in an area where, you know, oh, it's precinct 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's second, but it's not. It's everybody knows these people. Everybody cares about these people. You know, even when we disagree, we still care about our neighbors, right? And it hurts more, you know, when it's people you know. I mean, it's just unfortunately, but it does, and it's the size town we have, and the close-knitness that we have is very special. And you know, people yell and scream and everything else, and sometimes deservedly, but in the end, you know, if somebody's in need, everybody's there to usually help and pick up the pieces. And it's good to see that hopefully sometimes the means to the end are uncomfortable and not fun and always take more time than we wish. But God willing that, you know, people that were affected are made as whole as possible through the town or whatever source we take. And you know, our engineer has done a lot of good work for us over the years, but you know, there's also accountability to be held. We will make sure that that's done, as well as their vendors. You know, this obviously gets back to the original situation that kind of brings more attention to this, and this is the work on Title VII show them the time it's taken and acknowledge, you know, it's been 4 years since Tony's been here and it's been before that. And we've made a commitment and we intend to pursue that commitment. We talk about finding funding sources and such, and I've talked to the town manager about different situations and different opportunities. I know Councilor Tasneri talks about the bond bill a lot, and the fact of the matter is that that's great, and we hope we get as much money as we can. There are billions, over $1 billion in the bond fund, and we have probably $30 million or more in projects that were a lot set up by Speaker DeLeo. We were fortunate to have him there. But it's almost like me writing you $1 million check. It's only as good as what's there, and it is totally controlled by the governor. In a situation where the state, the Commonwealth, is not in great financial shape right now, but we will use all means possible. We are one town. We need to watch out and look out for each other. You know, I'm saying this later, but I'm holding office hours this Thursday and subsequent next week also, just to, you know, hear more about this subject and whatever people need. But we do care. We're trying to do the best we can. I know Steve did the best he can. I know sometimes the best you can isn't good enough for a lot of people, and believe me, we understand that. But thank you for your patience, and the public will have a chance to speak in a minute at public comment. But I do want to thank Steve again. Chief is here, and Chief Goodwin is not here. But, thank you to DPW, thank you to our public safety, our police, our first responders, and thank you, Tony. So I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, no public hearings. Public comment. We'll ask you to keep it to 3 minutes, but try not to repeat too much, but Mark, you're up.
Precinct 2, I think I'll use the today. Jack, you're right, this is a good idea. First of all, Steve, I understand you're up against it, I really do. But the pump not being on Girdlestone is really sticking with me. It would have helped, it would have kept the water, as I've always said for years. You keep the water in the street, we don't have problems, okay? You know, that's a piece of safety equipment, and it should be able to be deployed at any time. I'm gonna touch on 4 points. So that's all I'm gonna say about the pump. I just felt it should have been there, maybe even pre-positioned, like they do for a lot of storms. The second item is, it's about choices, good choices and bad choices. 3 plow drivers made a really, really, really bad choice to take their largest truck and 2 smaller trucks and plow Girdlestone Road with 2 feet of water in the street, creating a tsunami which inundated the properties at that point. That's when it really got bad for us, really got bad for us. I have 3 pumps going with a capability of more than 10,000 gallons an hour. I want you to think about that, 10,000 gallons an hour I was pumping, okay? He wasn't as fortunate. He had 3.5 feet of water in his basement, okay? And they made that choice. It was mostly in the streets, just starting to get to the sidewalks when those plows came through and opened the floodgates because the slush and everything else was holding it back. And they made a bad choice. The next bad choice they made was when they turned the corner, made a right-hand turn on Marshall, where the water main break was, and as we've all seen on the Weather Channel, never drive through water that you don't know what's underneath it. Flowing water, you should never drive through it. You see it on the Weather Channel all the time when these flood events happen. Don't drive it, you may lose your life. Well, that driver made a bad choice to drive through the water main break, which subsequently they had to go to a secondary shutoff, which they had to find. So now the delay is even more. All the while, I'm in my basement trying to save my house, okay? I want you to think about that, a 66-year-old guy trying to keep back 18 inches of water surrounding his house. 3, I already spoke to that. Moving forward, my hope is that we can have some training for our drivers. When they see situations occur, that they make better choices, period. In-service training is wonderful. Just talk about making better choices. Those were two incredibly bad choices that caused a lot of damage to us and exacerbated what was already really bad for us, okay? Jay Murphy on the other side of me had more than 1.5 feet in his basement. Like I said, I think I saw the picture, it was up to here, okay? And he had just replaced all of that equipment, brand new equipment, when he redid the house. I feel bad for him, I truly do. You know, I wanna know what Plan B is gonna be when we can't have our pump, which it happened one time during the summer when it was just Eddie out there, couldn't get anybody to come in for him, with him to operate the pump. What do we do on Plan B? I have some ideas on it. I hope people reach out to me, because I know we can get through it, pure and simple. This is just unconscionable that we had to wait till 3 o'clock in the afternoon for MWRA to show up. I was grateful they showed up, and again, I went make sure they all knew that we appreciated what they did for us. And to Pat Costigan, the only counselor that reached out to me, okay? Reach out to me. To Jim, thank you for putting up with my venting, because I gave him a lot. And Kim, you reached out to a lot of people, but the epicenter was Girdlestone Road. You have my cell phone number. Thanks for nothing.
Celeste Rivera here at Precinct 1. I think many of you know I'm on the Climate Commission. We did send an official email to Town Council, and we'll share it with the public. You know, I'm gonna talk about my own comments. First and foremost, I wanna say I'm so sorry to the people that were impacted. It's the same people who knew they would be impacted. And you know, one of the solutions or one of the action points that the Climate Commission has put forward is to hopefully have a summit with the Climate Commission, Town Council, and hopefully residents to share, you know, Mark, some of your ideas, and Marcy, some of your ideas to try to stave some of these off at the pass. So essentially, I touched on that, we already have the letter. I wanna thank Director Calla and Chief and Town Council and your crews. I know it was a Herculean effort, it was literally a perfect storm, and you know, there was just, hits kept coming every storm. I know myself at home, I had a little sump pump failure after the storm, and it was a mechanical and human error. We got maybe 1/4 inch of water in the basement, and my life flashed before my eyes, so I can't imagine what everybody else is going through. You know, that being said, while so many of the impacts could not have been foreseen, many of them could have been. And many of them were called out, particularly Tileston, Girdlestone, were highlighted as a hotspot by the Climate Commission for over 1.5 years, and we shared it, we made it available. There are lots of these hot points that were highlighted by the Climate Commission, and really, we just did the consolidation, the distilling of this information. This information has been out there and it's been put together by experts in the field. And you know, we glean from that best practices and would really like to get back to the dialogue on that, okay? And essentially, we really need to seriously look at pulling in resources. Politics aside, you know, I don't think that many of, you know, my fellow residents have the appetite for another debt exclusion. You know, we need to look at the capital set aside and really plan annually to put a serious chunk of money aside for looking at these infrastructure concerns. I think a bright shining spot, I was talking with somebody yesterday at the dentist, and they live on Morton Street, and they pointed out that this time around that they were not impacted, them and a number of their neighbors. So the work that has been done to clean out the drainage and that sort of thing, they commented that that seemed to have been effective. And that's, you know, one of the things that we definitely pointed out as the Climate Commission. You know, so, oops. Just bottom line is we have an incredibly skilled team clearly on the front lines, and we owe it to them, and we owe it to our residents to seriously set about doing this work, getting the resources, stop tying our hands, stop precluding ourselves from, you know, these grants. I know Town Manager Marino mentioned grants. I don't know which grants that we're eligible for, and that's one of the things, even though we've still been a little bit dormant as a climate commission, we've been reaching out for opportunities that we're not banned from, because we're not in compliance. And I'm always gonna continue to hit the drumbeat that let's just submit the piece of paper already. We have more important, clearly, business to do. Thank you.
Cresciano, 19 Girdlestone Road. Lived there my whole entire life. People are talking about numbers. He's been here for 4 years and everyone's working on it. Does anyone up there realize how long this is going on? It's not 4, 5, 6, 7. It's been 30 years. 30 years. A quick example I'll give to you. So 2 years ago, when my mom was still alive, God rest her soul, when you get a call from a home health aide saying, I cannot visit your mother today, I can't get down the street. A woman dying of cancer in her home. They can't, does anyone here find that acceptable in any way? In any way. It's obscene. I've never complained to this town once, ever, never been to a meeting. But guess what? Here I am. Enough is enough. Hospice care. Pharmaceutical deliveries to the house. I don't think anyone realizes how often this happens. It's completely unacceptable. I just remodeled that house 2 years ago. Put a ton of money into it because I love the town. My daughter's gonna live there. Wonderful. Wiped out. Wiped out. And this could have been fixed years ago. But we're dilly-dallying with money and this and that. I know it takes time, but how much time? Really, how much time? Will someone answer me, is that acceptable for my mother's condition? That's the one thing I wanted to point out. Yeah, we're talking about lives lost and all this other stuff. Guess what? That's serious when someone can't get medical care on the street. I mean, that's as much as I have to say, but something has to be done sooner than later. And it's always, we're moving to it. Here we go, we're gonna do this. And it just keeps going by and it goes in circles and circles. It's wrong. Someone needs to do something about it. Like sooner than later. Enough is enough.
Marcy Hamilton, Precinct 2. My home and property were damaged by the most recent drainage issues caused by the water main break on Marshall Street. For 3+ years now, I've worked tirelessly with this government to ensure that this flooding would not happen again. It took years to investigate and relay the issue to you, let alone to identify the solution and further develop a workaround to stabilize the problem in the absence of funding. A pump to be put on Girdlestone Road that served the purpose. The Girdlestone pump was not activated Sunday night, Monday morning, during this extreme weather event, which I did not know all of this was going on, and I so appreciate the work of the DPW right from the get-go, and the fire department, and the police. As a result, water came coming towards me, and I was on the phone with people that I know in this town saying, activate the plan, activate the plan. It was too late. We were in chaos. We were wringing our hands. Few men were doing the work of maybe 12, 20 men, and that's unacceptable. My basement, shed, garage, and all my property, again, were destroyed. This was preventable by the town, and after all my efforts, I feel betrayed by this neglect and lack of proactivity. This is not new news. This is a drainage issue that you've known about. I've known about since 2017 when a DPW went down into that hole and saw the duct flap and the cracked pipe. And one that I've continuously brought to your attention for years. Here I stand yet again to remind you of this problem's history and request the allocation of funds to resolve it. Woods Hole recommended infrastructure repair in 2017. In 2024, the Climate Commission had a phased plan, implemented a plan. In 2025, Woods Hole again told us that this was needed to fix this issue, and you committed to the permitting. We have since dismissed the Climate Commission recommendations due to lack of financial commitment. I demand a vote to be put on the future agenda that will allocate the $4.5 million in May to fix this issue and end this misery to this neighborhood. As for my property damage, I'll be in touch with the town manager when the total damage can be assessed. I am most concerned with what's happening underneath my home with our foundations and neighborhood as a whole. Our properties have had constant water flow and destruction. This must be evaluated and addressed. You'll never know the stress that overcomes you as water is pouring towards you in your home. Not one person on this board has personally experienced these events, but it shouldn't have to happen for you to, as a council, to care about this. Thoughts and prayers do nothing to ease the constant worry about my property as it's being damaged every time and time again, and not due to climate, but due to lack of attention on broken drainage infrastructure.
Well, that was good.
3 minutes. 3-minute speech.
Excuse me.
I'm having a problem with some actually,
Jack Dodd, Precinct 4, I believe. First of all, I want to congratulate Steve on his efforts in that storm. It's Herculean. I've worked in the construction business my whole life, never under those circumstances. I also want to congratulate him on the presentation here tonight. That's one. Thank you, Steve. As far as the, this comment is directed at Kurt Millar. You stated on a couple of occasions that you would like to do your own type of presentation for the exemption case, amongst others, but particularly yourself. It is with great anticipation that people are waiting for this presentation from you, of having the state exempt us from the 3A Act. So I hope we're going to put that on the agenda before the case is heard, and I think it's the Supreme Court. I'm not positive. So we're waiting with that for that report. I hope you have capable people working. As far as appointments to committees, excuse me, we have a very capable new Precinct 3 person. And I believe there's about 3 vacancies on committees. He's graduating in 4 years with a master's also. Very, very capable person. Wants to be involved in town politics, but he's getting no direction from the president of the council. Hasn't put him on a committee yet. Masters in 4 years. Kind of like unprecedented in my point of view. I hope, we need somebody, a young person, to understand what happens at a finance committee for the future of the town. I believe Kim Dimes is on the finance committee, and she has her own special kind of finance knowledge, which may or may not be
Do you have any other pertinent comments without disparaging anybody?
Really something else.
I don't know if I did.
Well, I can say what it disparages, so if you have other comments.
Thank you.
please continue. Thank you.
That's it, sir.
Yes.
Cassie Woodhouse, Precinct 5. I appreciate you keeping the comments not directed at specific counselors as it's been previously noted. That was great. I think that it's confusing and kind of concerning that we keep saying that our bond rating is going up when there's not the liabilities of these outstanding maintenance issues taken into consideration in that document, that financial report. It feels like something that would be of note when they're assessing what our capacity is to take on more debt when we might have an emergency situation that could set off multiple water main breaks or some other long-standing issue needing to be addressed in a very short order. So I hope that you will consider that when you're making the budget for these coming years. We need to be thinking forward for the future. These obviously have gone on for a very long time if folks have been living their whole life here, and it's been a known issue since they were born. That's not the way that we should be planning for the community's future, especially for these neighborhoods that consistently see flooding like this. It's really harrowing, the stories people have said, so I hope that you're taking that seriously.
Correspondence, Denise?
I did receive several emails from residents about the concerning the water main breaks during the flood. All those will be put in the record in the minutes. And Rob DeMarco wants to send a big shout out to the DPW. Thank you for all your hard work and everything that you did.
Any reports there aren't any right now. School department report, school department, we met last night. The majority of the conversation discussed the contract negotiations with the WTA. The school committee has added a website. If you go to Winthrop, k12.ma.us, you go up to the top right corner, click down the bar, go to About Us, and go to School Committee. There's a webpage the school committee has put up that it's trying to keep residents informed of the negotiations. The WTA and the school committee has agreed to negotiate in public, so to speak, and if you go to that website tab, you will see the ask from the WTA, the response, and from the school committee, and it will be able to keep you guys informed of what's going on instead of hearing it at a coffee shop or whatever, or not hearing it. So that was it for the school committee. Policy committee, the next Board of Appeals meeting is March 19th, and the next planning board meeting is April 13th. Town manager's report has been circulated, but I'll ask the town manager if you'd like to add anything to it, or any discussions, or maybe debrief the town.
Yeah, pretty standard stuff on there. One of the big things I did want to point out is the DPW started today on the work on the coastal dune on Hero Beach. We said we were gonna do it during the winter months. We got a little bit later start, obviously, given the hard winter we've had. We were opening it out there, mid to late February. But we are starting, we're gonna probably get a portion of it done, see how far we can go. So I think we're 200, about 200 feet of it, and then get it planted, see how long that takes, and then we'll keep going. The big thing is make sure it gets planted, because otherwise we'll just have sand sitting there without plantings in it. The plantings will help hold it during the storms. So that's going on. We have been in touch, obviously, reached out to Council Romano, let him know since this is Precinct, and there's a few other key people along that shoreline that have been asked to keep in the loop, which I reached out to them as well. One of the big concerns they have is the stairways. This first 200 feet is only going to impact one stairway, which we're going to leave in place for now, and then we'll discuss the 5 or 6 entry points that we'll have and where they want those. This is what the neighbors decide is best. Fit what works best for the neighborhood there in the Point Shirley neighborhood. So they're doing a great job. It's slow work. Obviously, we're starting at the furthest point out and working our way back. So as we get closer, it'll be a little quicker. But that work is starting. We have to be off by April 1st. For the piping clovers. So once we get off there, then we'll go back on. We'll get back after Labor Day. Maybe do a little bit in September, and then we'll do a little more planting, and then hit it again next year. So we're under a 5-year plan to get it done. So we have a little bit of time. So we're going to do it as slow as we can to make sure it stabilizes it and it holds. We don't waste that money.
Alright, before I pass it around, so just so the residents know, I think, is it April 1st or June 1st?
April 1st.
April 1st.
Oh,
April 1st, yeah.
I thought it was June.
No, I wish it was June.
Oh,
But
I
no,
thought
it's
you
April.
told me June. It's
Yeah,
April?
no. So we have to have it fenced off and ready to go.
So you're talking about 200 feet, now this is 1,300 foot project.
1280, so yeah,
So
yeah.
1,300
Start
feet,
at
we're
the
gonna
surf
do
side,
200.
working our way back.
So, and this was supposed to start obviously in February, but with the weather it hasn't. So potentially the good thing about this is if we see, instead of doing 1,300 feet and seeing it all wash away, if we do 200 feet or 300 feet or whatever we get done and do the plantings, and the plantings have time to take root and hold, and it washes away, are we on the hook to do it again?
Well, we'll go back, if that happens, we'll go back to DEP and we'll try to come up with an alternate plan, but
And so we haven't decided on the 5 locations for the stairs where they're going to.
we have a ballpark, but yeah, we wanna work with the neighbors, so we'll make sure it
So
works
we
for
will
them.
have, there will be a neighborhood.
Absolutely, yeah, we promise we'd meet out on site and isolate the area so they can, I know there's a few people that, with some accessibility concerns, and we wanna make sure we're close by to them, things like that, so yeah, we're gonna work with the neighbors on that.
Any questions, Council Costigan? Council Tassinari?
I do have a question, thank you, Mr. President. Manager Marino, in light of all the capital expenditures that we're looking at down the road, are we gonna have time to do, would you be available, ready to do an update to the 5-year capital plan including some of the lists of things that aren't currently funded.
We have a lot of projects on there that aren't currently funded, I mean, we can add to that list, and I'm certainly looking forward to working with that committee and
Okay.
capitalize it.
And how about how long would you need to prepare something?
It's almost done now, so I mean, whenever you wanna meet, we're ready.
Alright, great, thank you.
Councilman Malak, anything?
Just a note on the meeting with the EOHLC, I know Augustus is stepping down
Yeah.
and Secretary Matthias is starting April 1st. Are you gonna try and schedule another meeting?
That's the plan, we wanna at least get answers to the questions that we had, and then once we, depending upon what those answers are, then we'll look to set up another meeting with the new secretary.
Cause I know it was kind of already action, but him
Yeah.
stepping down
Yeah,
kind
we
of.
weren't anticipating Secretary Augustus leaving, that sort of caught everybody by surprise, so.
Councilor Redden? Vice President Swope?
I'm glad that you've decided to agree to have an Excel spreadsheet where we can see what the issues have been presented, what we did about them, and where we are on that schedule. So, for example, what happened to the trees?
Yep, I would wanna be clear on that, that was, the council president and the town council clerk are working on that.
Mhm.
They've taken on that project.
Fantastic.
Yep, I wanna thank
And
them.
I know you'll help,
Yeah.
because I know you
Yeah.
have some of the data. So
Yeah.
I think that will be helpful, because I know Mr. Morgan has presented some issues that he had, so exactly. And it's just, sometimes it's just questions, like who actually is responsible for taking the snow away from the bus stops during, so that they're cleared, so that people can get to them. And it's sometimes simple that we could answer, and it would be clear about whose responsibility it is, so I appreciate that. And I do think to follow up on what Councilor Millar just said, I would like to know where we do stand on the EOLC thing, so what happens to us. And also, I did have some other issues that I sent over to, I don't know if you're willing to think about those in terms of what is going on there, but I'm hoping that you'll at least present some of those issues to them and see what they say. Thank you.
Councilor Dodd?
Thank you, Town Council President. I just wanted to know if you're looking for volunteers for the plantings on the berms, and if so, I would love to volunteer.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Minor?
Yes. So I would like to tell anyone in Precinct 6 who has any questions about the berm to either reach out to Town Manager Romino or myself at jromano at I think it's winthropma.gov, I believe is the email address. And I've learned a lot about this project. I'm still picking up on it. I had a great, wonderful conversation with Town Manager Romino this morning. I appreciate him for reaching out to me. I just want to ask as well. You mentioned that with the plan is we're going to try and get 200 feet done by April 1st.
Yes.
So how much will be left? I understand, like, not just necessarily footage, but like how much time do you think it'll take to do the rest of the project?
We'll know after we do the 200 feet, and that's, like I said, that time frame will get shorter as we get closer, cause less obviously the front end loader's gotta drive all the way to the other end and then come back and get the sand, so the first part will take the longest. So as we get closer to the end and get closer to the pile of sand, it will take less time, but yeah, we'll know more after we do this 200
So they
feet.
have to be off by April 1st. When can we start the project up again?
We'll do it right after Labor Day.
As soon as the clovers fledge.
Yeah.
And then what's your best estimate after, from that point on? Would it take another year or so, or just an estimate?
Yeah, I wouldn't wanna give you one.
Just started today.
Yeah, we
And
just started today.
that's nothing wrong with it. I just wanted to see.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
We will keep reporting on this, so
Yes,
when
and I
we get to
appreciate
those
I
answers.
appreciate this open communication, everything that's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Old business, and just again, another update on Precinct 6 council seat. We have 4 official candidates right now who have put in a letter of interest. One is Matt Finn, another Danny Floyd, another Michael Gillespie, and another Kevin Morales. This process has been ongoing. I'm going to ask that, I've heard, not officially, so I've heard that 1 or 2 might be withdrawing. So I'm going to give another until the next council meeting to officially vote. But I would encourage anybody who had a question. I mean, there's a candidate or 2 that hasn't had any contact, and we want to give every candidate the the ability to really take a good look at them and to understand and have conversations with them. So I'm asking the 4 candidates if they're still going forward, that's great, and we encourage that, and please let us know. If there's a withdrawal letter coming from any of them, please let us know that. And also, I have had some questions from counselors on a resume. In the past, when we've done this, for the most part, it's always been a group of a couple of people that have come in and made presentations and either have been known to or have a better understanding from the counselors as to who they are. We don't know as much about the candidates, so I have had counselors asking for resumes to go along. In the beginning, all we asked for was a letter of interest to show your interest in the position. Now we would love it if you choose to take a minute to just email to Denise or the council, and it will be distributed to the council, a resume for each of you. And it'll be the 10th, so we will 100% have this on the agenda to be voted on under new business on March 24th.
I would like to make a motion to take the vote now. As
Motion's out of order.
I would like to appeal the chair's decision.
Okay.
So,
how would you do that?
yes, so I believe that we.
No, you have to, how are you going to?
Okay, that this is in order. It was on the agenda under old business. It was sent to us when we got our agenda this week. It said that we were gonna take the vote this meeting.
It did not say, where does it say that?
It was sent an email by our town clerk. She did write to us for taking.
We put it on the agenda.
Did we put that, is that on the agenda
Yeah, it
to
has
take
to
a
be on the
vote?
agenda.
Old business precinct 6 council seat. That was
Yes,
supposed
which
to
has
be,
been
you
old
said
business.
last
New
meeting.
business would be, if I was putting it on the agenda, it would be new business voting on precinct 6 council.
I believe as a town council, I have the right to make a motion on anything related that is on the agenda. Precinct 6 is on the agenda. I'd like to make a motion related to that. So let us take the vote right now.
Okay, you're making a motion to appeal the decision of the
Yes.
chair.
Uh-huh.
Okay, there's a motion made.
Yes.
Seconded motion.
Second that motion, discussion on the motion.
I just laid out my reasons why I think we should do this today. If a council doesn't want to do this, they have the right to use the council privilege, but we were told last meeting that we were gonna be taking this vote today. It is unfair that precinct 6 has not had representation since November, and I'm not gonna keep pushing it off indefinitely. I keep hearing 100% we're gonna take this vote, and I'm not gonna keep waiting any longer. So if the council wants to use the council privilege, fine, that means it has to be on next meeting. But I am gonna finally take action. And I know precinct 6 is my precinct, but as you said today, we're all one small town, and these people deserve representation.
These people deserve representation, as did precinct 2, when nobody chose to vote. And
That's
precinct
not my
6,
fault.
like precinct 2 and all the other precincts, have representation from all of us, especially from 2 at large and a council president. Now, if you don't think it's fair to let all the candidates be here
The
and to
candidates
voice
were
their
told that we were
concern.
gonna have the meet, have it today, last meeting. They were
If
told
you
that.
don't think it's fair to have candidates speak their mind and give a presentation to the council, and you wanna choose to make your own decision based on, how many of the 4 have you spoken to?
I've spoken to all 4.
You've spoken to all 4?
Yes. I've spoken to all 4.
You have.
Yes, I have.
Again, I don't think it's fair to have a vote when you're talking, when you don't have the candidates here, when you don't have it. We have always, over the past 20 years, had the opportunity for people to give their viewpoints and their speeches before the council. Now you're
They were
choosing to
told,
do
they were
that.
told last meeting to have it prepared for this meeting.
If they're looking at an agenda like a good counselor should and understand that it would say new business, because this is not, taking a vote would be new business. Discussion is old business. If this was taking a vote, it would be under new business.
I'm appealing your decision. It's been seconded.
Yeah, it has.
Let's take a vote.
Any other discussion? All right, you need a supermajority to pass an appeal?
No, you do not.
Yes, you do.
Not according to Robert's rules. I can pull it up. I have it here. You need a simple. Yep, thank you, Denise. Simple
All right.
majority.
Any other discussion?
Clarify the vote, please.
Would that be for the council clerk?
Motion to appeal the decision of the council president, second by council Costigan. It is majority vote.
Okay,
Not supermajority?
Just a question to, not supermajority,
Thank you.
question to clarify. Will we be able to, oh, sorry.
no, what's your question? To clarify the motion?
To clarify the motion, this motion is just to immediately hold the precinct 6
Yes.
vote right after?
Yes.
as we were scheduled to today, as we
Without
all came in
allowing
planning.
our candidates to speak, or can we amend?
I would like to let the candidates speak, we can,
Well, the candidates aren't all here.
the candidates were told to show up today.
No, the candidates
They were
understood.
told last meeting to show up today. That is a fact. I don't care what you
We
say
said
to me,
it
I have
three
been
times that we were gonna vote, Counselor, if you chose to understand the rules.
I understand the rules,
Is it
Council
new
President.
business, have we ever had the motion to vote on a town precinct 6 councilor on the
We were
agenda?
told that
Have
this was
we
gonna,
asked,
you're not answering my question, we were
I'm
told.
asking you a question, have we had on the
Let's
agenda
take-
to
let's take
vote
a
on
vote.
precinct 6?
Yes, we were
We
told
have,
that we're gonna vote.
we have, can you show me the agenda that
He's
we've
gotta-
had
he's gotta
voting
go
on
to
precinct
that
6? Just show me that agenda.
It's on precinct 6, it's on.
Can you see where it says vote on precinct 6?
Has that the way it's always been passed? I don't
Okay,
believe
this is the way it's always been done and it's new business.
It has to be on the
Oh, it is on the agenda of the old business. I wanna make a motion related to it.
We have your motion.
Okay, let's vote on it.
I would ask to amend the motion to allow the candidates who are in the room tonight to at least speak on their own behalf.
I would second that.
Okay.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Mr. President?
Alright, so there's a motion made and
Should we vote on the amendment first and then on the?
Yep. Any discussion on the amendments?
I think the amendment's a great idea. Thank you, Councilor Castaneri.
Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, roll call vote on the amendment.
Council Costigan,
Yes.
Council Tasneri,
Yes.
Council Milan,
Yes.
Council Reardon,
Yes.
Council Dimes,
Yes.
Council Romano,
Yes.
Vice President Swope,
Yes.
President Lettieri.
Yes. Now on the motion as amended, roll call.
Council Costigan,
Yes.
Council Tasneri,
Yes.
There you go.
Council Milan,
Yes.
Council Reardon,
Yes.
Council Dimes.
Yes.
Council Romano,
Yes.
Vice President Swope,
Yes.
President Lettieri.
So the motion is on the table now. So Councilor Romano?
Yes, so I believe the way we previously done this, we let the candidates that are present speak, or, well, how do we? Do we have to nominate the candidates first, I believe, right, actually?
You would
So-
definitely have to nominate.
Okay, so I would like to,
The chair would ask for nominations.
okay.
I'd like to ask for nominations for precinct 6 council.
I would like to nominate Martin Finn.
Councilor Romano nominates Marty Finn. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Reardon. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Gillespie.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so there were 2 candidates. Any other nominations? Okay, and again, you could break it at any time, but in the past, we have always usually nominated every candidate out of respect for them taking the time to put in a letter of interest, but it seems to be true in this situation. All right, nominations are closed. We have 2 candidates that are nominated here. Mr. Finn, the floor is yours.
Hey, how are ya? Martin Finn, Precinct 6. Read a little letter I wrote. Try to memorize it, but hopefully you don't mind me reading from the paper. Good evening, Council President Lettieri and members of the Town Council. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. I stand before you not just as a candidate, but as a lifelong resident of Winthrop. My family has called this peninsula home for generations. And I grew up walking the same streets, attending our schools, and learning the values of this community from those who came before me. My roots aren't just deep, they are the foundations of everything I do. Now I am raising the next generation of that legacy. I have an 11-year-old son, Luke, in the 5th grade. I was gonna bring him tonight, but I don't know. He wanted to come. He's in our school system. When I look at the decisions this council makes, I don't just see policy. I see the future of my town and the future that my son and his peers will inherit. I want to make sure the Winthrop we leave them is even stronger and more resilient than the one we have today. For the past 6 years, I've had the privilege of serving as head coach for Winthrop Youth Soccer and Winthrop Little League as well. Some of the best years of my life. My office hours are often held on the ball fields. In those 6 years, I've had thousands of conversations with parents and neighbors. I've heard their concerns firsthand, and I understand the pulse of this town because I am in the thick of it with them every single week. I am not coming to this council with a personal agenda. I am coming with the collective voice of the families I've stood beside on the sidelines. Something we talked about today, one of the most pressing concerns I hear, and one I share deeply, is the recent flooding that has devastated so many of our friends, neighbors, loved ones. We've seen the damage to homes and the toll it takes on our residents' peace of mind and finances, especially following the storms we just faced last month. As a coastal community, we cannot afford to wait. We need to be proactive about our infrastructure and coastal resiliency to protect our people and their properties. I want to work with this council to ensure that Winthrop Strong also means Winthrop prepared. An appointment to this council requires a partner who can step into the work midstream. I'm ready to do that. I followed our recent sessions, as you guys know, closely, and I understand the weight of the budget and the infrastructure challenges you face. Coaching has taught me how to manage different personalities and focus on a common goal. I offer you a commitment to transparency, accessibility, and common sense solutions. In closing, I have the energy of a coach, the perspective of a parent, the history of a lifelong resident, and a deep-seated love for Winthrop. It's from the heart right there. I would be honored to earn your vote and your trust to serve our community alongside you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Glass.
Council President, Council, Town Manager, Chief, DPW Steve, thank you for all your service so far. And residents, I feel you. I live on Winthrop Shore Drive, so definitely have a soft spot for you guys. I really just want to have 3 phases. I want you to get to know me, why I'm running, some of my concerns, and what I'll be addressing. And then last steps, just to kind of value and kind of put more prominence on my experience. So quick background about me, and I can provide references and formal CV upon request. College educated, UMass Lowell. I have a dual degree in finance and economics, BSBA. I also have a master's degree in finance from the University of Southern New Hampshire. I started my professional career in accounting and tax, having both undergraduate and graduate degrees in finance, working through multiple disciplines of finance and analyst roles. I've since transitioned into the world of real estate and own and operate an independent property management company called Simply Living Property Management, and primarily focus on HOA management, accounting, and project manager for a wealthy few people. One of the things I really wanted to really stand by and really reiterate is why I want to be councilman of Precinct 6. As one of Winthrop's newest residents, every day my passion and excitement for living here only grows, specifically for its beauty, our amazing restaurants, and the friendliness of our residents. One of my main reasons for reaching out and how I wanted to get involved with the community was some of the concerns and stress among our peers in the Winthrop NICE group, and it's called NICE. And I want to help those people who are struggling and to provide them a vote of confidence that we're addressing their needs every day, whether it's a storm or not a storm. Voice for the younger generation, which I think is underrepresented in our local government. Thank you, Joe, for bringing that up as well. Someone who could really analyze the numbers and budget and advocate for our community, understanding the numbers that go beyond personal wealth. I want to be the front face of DCR. I live on Winthrop Shore Drive to ensure they're holding up their civic duty and continuing to serve our beaches and boardwalks at the highest standard, and will argue for those updates we need in Winthrop. So keeping Winthrop beautiful. So quick summary, I am committed, approachable, and eager to listen and collaborate with residents of all ages. I would welcome the opportunity to bring energy, fresh ideas, and a strong sense of responsibility to City Council. And I want to work alongside all my fellow members in service of Precinct 6 with a broader Winthrop community. Thank you all.
Thank you both for the excellent comments, we appreciate them. Open the floor for discussion. Yeah, Councilor Tessner.
Thank you, Council President. I appreciate your interest, both of you, I appreciate the interest of the other two folks who did apply. I would have hoped to have seen them in the audience tonight so they could give their own presentation. I'm sure if they were here tonight, they would have been nominated. It was on the agenda. I would have expected those folks, if they were interested, to be in the room. I really appreciate Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Finn, you laying it out there like that and really giving us something to think about here on the council. I know I've had the opportunity to speak to both of you briefly, and I just hope that whichever way it goes, you still stay involved, and there's definitely room for both of you within town government because we really need all the help we can get to move the needles forward here. As you've heard from the public comment tonight and previous public comments that we've been in the room. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Other comments? Vice President, Councilor Koski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do just want to commend both of you for stepping up, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Finn. And I know you are new to town, Mr. Gillespie, and I appreciate you jumping in very early in this race here. And you came prepared tonight as well, so obviously you'll be on this council in no time. Mr. Finn, as far as your child in the school system, I think it's very, very important. It gives a different perspective to this town as it relates to what is needed in this town for the youth, mind you. I know when my daughters went through the school system here in town, I was very much involved at that point. And it's very important that you have some skin in the game, is my opinion to this. So I appreciate you stepping up as well. Thank you very much.
Again, comments or questions to either candidate? Well. Vice President Schulman.
Thank you all both. I mean, it's interesting because we often we only have one candidate that comes forward, so it's wonderful to have more than one in a precinct. And you all have different strengths, and you all bring a different perspective to the community. So I would love to ask each of you, where do you see Winthrop in about 10 years? How do you envision what's going to happen here, and what would you like to see?
I could answer that. Just being a first-time homeowner, I think we should strive to make that really important to welcome younger people to this town, which I think there's a lack of. And I think secondly, as you mentioned, I do think that we do have an infrastructure issue that needs to be addressed. So I'd really focus on infrastructure and then keeping the restaurants going, which will bring in younger people like myself to the town.
Thank you.
Myself, big driving force for me, as I've told quite a few of you, is having my son and my stepdaughter went through the school systems and that. The youth is important, and I stated that up there. I'd like to see, more extracurricular activities for the kids. I'd like to see our school systems get better. I mean, that means a lot to me as a parent, and it means a lot to everyone in this room. I'm sure of that. I grew up here. I still love it just as much, but sometimes I get the feeling that it's not the Winthrop of the old that I grew up in, and I'd kind of like to see it in a modern era become similar to what it was when I was a child, my mother was a child, my father was a child, my brothers were children, So, I'm all in for that, so that answers your question.
Councilor Millar.
I just like to thank you both for putting your names in. It can be hard, and it takes a little bit of a backbone to accept everybody's view of you sitting in the seat. And I guess maybe what has been a hard position you've been in where you've been given feedback and be able to express yourself? Has there been a point where it has gotten that you have been in a situation where you've had to keep your composure and ensure you can move forward?
Yeah, I could answer that. Great question, and I think everyone around here has experienced a lot of difficulties of recent. And I think some of those difficulties are the uncontrollable, right? So when a snowstorm comes, or your windows break, or you can't get out of your driveway, it's a really unfortunate situation, and it happens to a lot of us. Over the last few weeks, I've dealt with these issues personally with some of the buildings that I manage. People have driveways that are frozen or can't get out of their house, and we have to do the best we can to help those residents in need. And you're always going to receive criticism just because it is the uncontrollable. So you have to put yourself in their situation, right? Well, how would you feel if you were in that situation? And you have to show compassion and willingness to kind of resolve that issue the best you can. And putting you before myself is always the best way to approach that, and I think gives you the best outcome for that.
You know, what came to my mind, because I had mentioned coaching sports in town for the youth, right? You get a lot of feedback from the parents. You're never gonna make them all happy, right? When there's school-aged children, you know, why isn't my kid playing? Why isn't my kid playing? So as of recent, in the past couple of years, I've been dealing with that. You know, they scrutinize you if they feel like their kid isn't playing enough, even if their kid is, you know, they just think their kid should be playing the entire time. So that's just an analogy I quickly thought of, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, sometimes you can't make everyone happy, but that's what it is, you know, that's what you sign up for, and I don't get paid for it, so. So that's just what I thought of off the cuff.
So one side note on this too is that no matter what the outcome is, hopefully there's committees to join. It's stepping stones to learn more about our government. And hopefully, no matter what the outcome is, you join on a committee or apply for it.
Councilman
Yes, I would like to thank both candidates for coming today. I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that they had stuff prepared to say, as all candidates should have, in my opinion. I had a great conversation with Mr. Gillespie today. I would really like to thank him for that. It was very enlightening. And I've also had great conversations with Mr. Finn in the past. I'd like to thank you both for going through this process, and I hope whatever candidate doesn't prevail, you'll continue to help out our community, like Councilor Miller said, join some committees and just stay involved, because I know neither of you haven't been on a council like this before, so I think this is a great stepping stone. You guys both have great ideas, maybe in slightly different directions some places. So I hope both sets of ideas still continue to be incorporated. You both still continue to come to these meetings, continue to pitch some really great ideas. So I'd really like to thank you both today.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Town Council President. I want to thank all Precinct 6 candidates, present and not present. And I want to just second what everyone else has said tonight, that whatever candidate doesn't end up in the seat, please consider joining a committee and keeping moving forward with us. And we appreciate your time and effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Again, thank you both for being here and for putting your letters of interest in. I guess I'll ask two questions of each of you, a question of each of you anyway to start, just to see where we are. Mr. Gillespie, obviously you're newer to Winthrop, right? November, October?
November-ish.
Okay. So, as the older senior person here, I guess I would say, do you think, no, I don't mean, I'm sorry, I senior in
I'm just kidding.
years of service. Do you find that as a hindrance? Do you think that would be harder for you to come on as a newer person in town, or do you think that that's a challenge, or do you think that's an opportunity for you?
I think not having the experience hands-on in the town is actually an advantage. I lived in the North End for 6 years. I lived in South Boston for 2 years. I lived in Quincy for 2 years. both of those, Quincy and South Boston, were right on the beach. So I'm a beach person, I love the community, and me coming here, getting involved with the community as fast as I did, seeing the discussion group pages, seeing some of the disconnect and concerns that the people have, I think that came as more of an opportunistic advantage for that, just because I haven't experienced some of what I've been hearing in other towns that I've been involved with. And I think just my approach on handling things and my motivation of getting things done is really going to play a strong role in this community.
And Marty, and then I'll go back again, but Marty, you, for openness, one of my wife's favorite students way back when.
She's my favorite teacher of all time.
But anyway, so a couple of questions for you. One is, you obviously have a passion for education, your children. Had you ever had any thoughts of, you've been here your whole life, of being on the school committee?
Yeah.
And that you can make a bigger impact on schools through that?
To be honest, not specifically the school committee, no. I haven't quite thought about pursuing that, but it's not something I wouldn't pursue in the future at this point.
And obviously, you work at the MWRA, that would make three members of the council work for the MWRA. How do you address that? Do you think there's any concerns for?
Not fair.
I don't think so, honestly, because if I'm not mistaken, did you just do a negotiation or contract with them for 10 years and that was recent? So I don't see many issues coming up that I would have to possibly recuse my vote on. So I personally don't think it's a big deal, but I mean, just my opinion. But
Any other questions from anybody? All right, so what we'll do is we'll do a roll call vote. It takes 5 votes to gather the seat, I guess. If it was whatever it was, if both candidates had less than 5 votes, we would rediscuss, take another vote, see where we went from there. And at that point, if nobody had 5 votes, we would probably table it. But no other discussion. Roll call, please, and just signify by speaking the candidate's name that you wish.
Council Costigan,
Martin Finn.
Council Tassinari,
Martin Finn.
There you go.
Council Milan,
Gillespie.
Council Reardon,
Martin Finn.
Council Dimes,
Gillespie.
Council Romano,
Martin Finn.
Council Swope, Martin Finn. Vice President Lettieri.
Michael Gillespie. All right, congratulations, Mr. Finn. You'll be sworn in before the next meeting. We have one appointment. The town council approved the appointment of Chris Zuma as a constable for the town of Winthrop for a term to expire June 30th, 2029. And this is not a policy-making board. Chris has been a constable and being reappointed. That will take place 30 days from today. And public comments once again. Well, it's only 9 o'clock.
I have a comment.
Mr. Dow.
Thank you, Mr. President. What I like to do before I come to meetings, if I'm gonna talk about something, is do a lot of research. I don't come in unprepared. I like to write stuff down sometimes, and sometimes I don't. But I did talk to a couple of people, very bright people. And I got a little consensus, only 2 people. I got a little consensus concerning the negotiations with Massport. It was suggested by one person that the town should be looking for a short-term contract with Massport.
for 5 years. It's an ever-changing financial situation. I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, or next month, or next year. So if we ask for a 5-year contract with them, for double the amount that we have right now, it would be prudent at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
I just had a question.
just a quick name and precinct for the record.
Precinct 1, Jennifer Jones. I didn't know they're creating a berm somewhere in the town,
Yeah, Euro Beach.
Vero Beach. Are they gonna be doing a berm down near Morton?
They can't respond, they're not supposed to answer. You can ask the
It's
question,
just public
but
comment,
they
but we will
can't.
take anything you say under advisement and get back.
Reach out to me.
When are we going to be talking about a berm? I mean, because from what I've gathered, the berm was destroyed, or not destroyed, but shaved down, and that's created some problems now. So I'm wondering, like, isn't that a priority considering, I don't know, so you're not gonna answer me, so I'm just gonna say, can we make that a priority?
Mm-hmm.
There you go, okay, thank you.
Hello, Cassie Woodhouse, Precinct 5. One thing I didn't mention earlier, there is still an opening for representation from the town of Winthrop on the North Suburban Consortium. I spoke with one of the members on an unrelated matter, and I asked him if anyone in Winthrop had been able to take advantage of the down payment assistance that is available because we are part of that consortium, and he said someone was. However, they tried to call our town hall repeatedly because there is a number for our planning department listed on the website for those down payment assistance funds that are available through the North Suburban Consortium. And they were never responded to, so they ended up actually calling the city of Malden directly, and they were the one that processed their application for them because our town staff did not. So they're almost out of those dollars. It's a program that had funding allocated to it, and I wanna make sure we can try to get folks to be able to use that. You can get $7,500 in down payment assistance. So it's you know, it adds up, it helps. And we need to have someone representing us on that committee to help expedite that, so just putting it out there again.
Tom Darian, Precinct 3. From what we heard earlier, our DPW is doing a great job. However, our DPW could use more staff, more people. So find some money for Steve to hire all the staff that he needs.
Yeah.
Any other public comments? Great. I'm gonna give the floor for a minute or two to Vice President Swope for public relations discussion on Women's History Month.
Women's History Month. I just couldn't let it go. It's funny because I spent my childhood we had a lot of politics in my home. We got 2 newspapers, Cleveland Plain Dealer and the Cleveland Press. And only my father could insist that Eleanor Roosevelt's picture be cut out of the Cleveland Press or he wouldn't take it. However, I would like to celebrate her today. She is a remarkable woman. She was a trailblazer as a First Lady, a diplomat, an activist, revered as the First Lady of the world. And it's her dedication to human rights, civil rights, and women's rights. She was the UN Commission, or headed the UN Commission on Human Rights, and wrote the Universal Declaration of Human Rights for NATO. And it still stands today, and it included everyone. And it made such a difference. It was voted, it was not unanimous, but of the 58 people, of the 58 countries represented originally, 48 voted for it, 10 abstained, and 2 weren't there. So, I mean, I got the math wrong, but essentially, most people that were there voted for it. And interestingly enough, she was unwavering in her passion for civil rights, particularly women's rights and everyone's rights. So that created the basis of NATO, and it still stands today as one of the best written documents in the history of the world. So, congratulations, Eleanor, even though my dad didn't like you.
Thank you. I will be holding office hours this Thursday, the 12th, and next Tuesday, the 17th, from 4 to 6 in the council chambers. The Commission on Disabilities, along with the Center of Independent Living, will be holding a presentation for staying in your home at the senior center. That will be on Wednesday, March 25th at 1 o'clock. Happy belated birthday and 21st birthday to Councilor I could be wrong, I thought I saw on, so I'm trying to stay off of social media, I thought I saw, was it Tom's birthday the other day? Yeah, so happy birthday. Other than that, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by President Swope, second by Councilor Romano, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No.